In this session, we are going to talk about working with extracts in Tableau rather than working with live connections. Extracted data and not with a live connection. Now, we know that Tableau works with different kinds of data sources. So there are two options with which Tableau can connect to those data sources. Right? Either I can connect live to that particular data source or I can extract. Now, some of them they have the option, whereas some specific like cloud specific data sources they always want data to be extracted, whereas on the other side the OLAP kind of data sources they always want only a live connection, no extracts. But what is the difference? When I do a live connection, Tableau is directly querying the data source. Right? A direct query is being put to the data source, and if at all there is some kind of a cache, at least cache from the cache, the query would be the query would be initiated on the cache. Whereas when you are extracting the data, the whole data is pulled, whole or some whatever it is, the required data as per the requirement that is pulled from the original source, and it creates a .tde file. Right? It creates a .tde file. So which means from for the future visualizations, the .tde file would be used and not the original data source. So though the typical paradigm of how Tableau is connecting to the data source, that is not getting changed, but instead of directly querying the data source, from now onwards, once an extract is created, Tableau will start querying the extract to create visualization. And if required, again we can do a refresh. Though I have done an extract, there is an option for me to do a refresh. So which means again the data from the original source will be refreshed into the extract. So anytime I am doing a refresh, probably the extract and the original data source look like copies of each other. But the advantage of having an extract is one, it is very much portable. I can transfer from one system to the other. But the biggest stuff is efficiency, speed, quickness of operations, which I may not be able to get when I am connecting live. So that's a major advantage. Now, how do I create an extract? Right, whenever I am connecting to a data source, now let me go here. Now here I am connecting to a new data source. Now whatever is the data source, let's say I want to connect to Google Analytics. Yes, I have connected to the Google Analytics. Allow. So it is saying extract or live. Of course, Google Analytics is not allowing me for a live. Whereas if I look at some other data source, let's say an Excel file, right? Let's say I'm going for an Excel file, let's say some kind of customer file. Now you see here, it is showing either I can connect live or an extract. So some data sources give me the facility of connecting live or as an extract, whereas some of them they allow only for an extract. Right? Now this is one way where I can directly connect for a new data source and then get the extract. Or the other way is, okay, once I have connected to a particular data source, right, let's say here, let's say this is my data source, I right click on the data source and I can say extract data. Right, let's say here I right click on it and I say extract data. So I'll get an extract of that particular data source. So these are very two simple traditional mechanisms, right? There are few programming based mechanisms also. We have a data extract API of Tableau, so which can help us in terms of using either a Python programming or a C or a C++ programming to create a kind of an extract file. So there are quite a few other external mechanisms also in which I can extract the data from the Tableau, from the data sources into a Tableau data extract TDE file. So when you first create, right now let's say I want to create an extract. For this customer file, I want to do an extract. So when I'm doing an extract, a few things it is asking me, right? So there are certain options that are coming out. I can put some kind of filters. Extract filters are the ones. So I can filter some part of my original data. So let's say I'll use the same copy chain example so that we can do slightly a better understanding. I'll connect to an Access database wherein, right, the copy chain is the one which I wanted to use. All right. Okay. So this is the data that we have connected to. Come to sheet 1. Okay, it's showing some problem. Okay, now that I have connected to this database, I right click on it, say extract data. So once I have extracted the data, I have some kind of extract filters here. So the extract filter is primarily, the objective of it is to limit whatever the extract that we are getting to some kind of a subset of the original source. So let's say I want to do an extract based on the market, right? So what is the kind of markets I want? Let's say I want East and West, right? I want East and West markets, okay? But let's say within that East and West, I don't want all, probably one or two states I really don't want. So based on the state, I want to do some kind of a filter. Let's say I don't want New York, right? I want all others. So I'll say New York and I say exclude, right? So these are the ones that are there from East and the West, but I don't want New York, so I am excluding it. All right. So these are some of the filters that we have applied, and that is what we are calling as the extract. Okay, we are creating an extract, the Tableau data extract. Now something got extracted and we got some kind of a new symbol here from one data source to another data source kind of stuff. So that is what is an indication of the extract. Now I can do a few more things, right? Let me go back to our extract. Okay. Again I go back to the extract. So these are the filters that we have kept. Now if required, I can even do an aggregation. Aggregation is, I'll not use all the records one by one. Now the difference is like this. Okay, this is the data. right? You can very well look at what is the data that is present. So the data source, if we see, the original data source has around 4248 records. Whereas when I come here, the extract, if you simply try out, right, if you simply try out the number of records, it is showing you only 2040. So there is a kind of a filter that has already got occurred. So there are around 2040 records, right? But now let's say I want to do some kind of an aggregation. So I can do an aggregation for the visible dimension. Means I can do the aggregation market wise and the state wise. So east and west markets, each state, there could be some kind of an aggregation that can be performed. So all the values, so there will be a one row for each of the states here. And if required, I can pull out all the rows, or it could be some kind of a sample from each of the rows. Top 100 rows or some such kind of stuff. I can pull some subset out of it. Now when I say extract, all right. Now let's try out how many records are there. Okay, 2000 odd records. Right now we have typically done the extract. We have aggregated all the visible dimensions and all the rows. Okay, let's look at that. Now, if I have to use the extract, right now this is what is the data. We have an extract out here, so which is showing that one data has come from one source to the other. And in some cases I can use the extract, or I need not use the extract also. Probably I can simply right click on it and I can either say use extract, or I click back on it, say, then it will not use the extract. So then this is the original data, and if I say use extract, this will become the data for me. But in both of them, you look at a simple way. Now I put, let's say, the profit, right? I put it in the rows. The profit shows around 100k plus. But the moment I say use extract, right, this is the number. But if I am removing the extract, it is showing me 250k, because my extract was only a subset, because we have done some kind of a filtering in the extract. So our analysis will change depending on whether I am using the extract or the original source. Otherwise, I can very well do the refreshing whenever I require. And now, okay, let's go to the extract. Within the extract, one, I can refresh, which is like a reloading the data from the original source. I can do a refresh. Or I can append the data from the file. So basically, let's assume like a new Excel file is generated every day. Same structure, same format, everything remaining the same, but it's a new file which is associated with the data, with a new data every day. And all I want to do is that new data I want to append to the existing data at the bottom. So in that case, I can use this option of appending the data from the existing file. In some cases, I may want to optimize it, where I want to restructure the extract. So based on the changes that I have made compared to the time when I have actually created the extract. Or I can even go ahead in terms of removing the definition of the extract, which means there is a possibility that I can delete the extract file and I can again go back to the live connection with the data source. And the other stuff, history and properties, talk about all the changes that we have made to the extract and the different properties of the extract. Okay, this is the database. So this is the extract aggregation that we are performing. These are the filters. So some kind of a definition of the extract is typically being shown. Then when it comes to the performance aspect of the extract versus the live. So this is the reason why we use extracts. They are very efficient, they are very fast compared to the live connection. One, they are all columnar in nature, which means I can query them quite comfortably. They are very much structured, so they can be loaded into the memory without any kind of additional processing. And whatever are the calculated fields, they are the ones, they create a difference, right? Based on the original data, you have done some kind of a calculated field. These pre-calculated values, they are already stored in the extract, which means I don't need to recalculate them every time. They can be read faster every time the query is executed because I don't need to do the recalculation of all those values. So there is a kind of a performance gain that we definitely get when we are using the extract. But a few important things to even more boost your performance: any unused fields, right? Any columns that you don't want to use them at all, perform their hiding on them so that they are eliminated from the usage. Where especially the things where you don't want to visualize at all, try to hide them. And wherever possible, don't extract the whole data. Right? If there is the database is the data source is having 10 years of data, but you are planning to do the visualization only of the last 2 years, then filter the data, get only the subset of the data so that the extract will be much more powerful. Whenever possible, do the optimization of the extract, especially when you are creating the field, editing the fields, deleting the fields, some such kind of stuff. Perform an optimization of the extract, and whatever are the extracts, better store them on the disks and drives, which can be defragmented regularly. So more and more effective drives or disks is where you try to save them. Even more performance optimization you can expect from the extracts. The other important dimension which really plays an important role with the extracts is the portability aspect, right? Which you have to be, which is something which is a striking factor. See, when we are saying something as an extract, we are saying that it's a TDA file. So generally, when you are saving the workbooks, Tableau workbook, it gets saved as .twb or twbx, which is a packaged workbook, and this is a solo workbook. Now here you will get all the fields, you will get all the visualizations, you will get all the dashboards when you save it as twb. But it does not contain any data of external files. Only the twbx, which is a packaged files, they only contain the data regarding the external files. So they are packaged along with all these details in a twbx file. And twbx file is the only one which contains the extracts of the data, and it can be actually published onto the Tableau public or Tableau online. Only the packaged workbooks can be published, not the original, not the standalone kind of workbooks, which means the portability becomes more and more comfortable when we are using an extract compared to a live connection. However, there could be a few security related issues which you have to consider before going ahead with an extract, right? Once you have extracted the data, you don't require any kind of credentials, right? Up to extracting the data, probably all the passwords and everything are required. But once the data is extracted, you don't need any kind of credentials, right? No username, passwords. All the data which is as a part of the extract can be read by anyone. So you have to be very careful, especially with the sensitive data. And especially when you are distributing the extracts are TWBX files where there is a lot of proprietary information or some kind of a sensitive information, make sure that you don't distribute them, or make sure that your extract is properly created before distribution. So basically it's like this, right? Let's say the HR head has created a packaged workbook, contains lot of data regarding the employees, including their salary information. But from that extract, let's say he created so many visualizations, and all the visualizations are very simple. No sensitive data is used in any of the visualizations. But he has created a TWBX file out of it, and he has shared it with the entire organization. But the extract contained all that stuff, all that sensitive information. So even though the visualization did not contain them, because the extract contained them, people started knowing their salaries along with the salaries of all other employees, which means it became a very critical HR issue within the organization. So the security related aspects need to be carefully thought of before distributing anything. So just to summarize, when to use the extract, right? When to use and when not to use. Of course, in some cases there is no choice. Like when you are connecting to Google Analytics or any other cloud kind of stuff, you cannot use extract. You have to use extract because you cannot do a live connection. At the same time, when you are connecting to OLAP data sources, you cannot use extract. You are forced to use live connection only. But when there is an option, one, when performance matters a lot, right? When you need a speedy, faster kind of execution, definitely extract plays a role. When your data is required to be portable, so uploaded to Tableau public or Tableau server, right? Shared with multiple parties, then obviously extract is much better. Similarly, you are using some kind of legacy connections, let's say to Excel or Access or text, and there are some functions which are there in the extracted data but not in the original. Like if I want to count distinct, Excel is not having any such kind of a function called count distinct. But once the data is extracted in the Tableau, I can do a count distinct straightforward. So when that kind of a requirement is there, better to go with an extract. And whenever you want to share a kind of a packaged workbook, Tableau publishing to Tableau online or such kind of stuff, they do not accept the Tableau workbooks, rather they accept only the TWBX files, which is the Tableau packaged workbook file. So in that case, there is no other option that I have rather than extracting the data. But make sure that when you have a lot of sensitive data, right, don't try to get into an extract. But of course, you can take some care, especially hide those sensitive fields before creating the extract, then you can still go ahead. But make sure that you are taking that step, otherwise don't go with an extract. Right? And especially when the login or such kind of credentials are very much important, then don't depend on the extract. Every time you want the person to make the credentials validated before connecting to the database, then let it be a live connection, not an extract. And especially when you want a real-time kind of updates to your data source, then obviously you should not depend on extract at all. And if you have large volumes, let's say a big volume of data, right? So the extract takes too much of time to get built. So you have to be really careful when you want to build the extract, because there is a lot of dependence on the type of the fields, the data types, how many fields I want to extract, what is the speed of the data source, what is the bandwidth of my network. Lot of factors have to be considered while I am trying to extract the data from the data source. Though extract really plays an important role in performing our visualizations quite quickly, sharing our visualizations across the world, but some of the limitations also do exist with the extracts. So we have to be more careful and vigilant before actually using them for our business decision making purposes. All right. Thanks a lot for listening to this session. Thank you very much.